Partner betrayal is disorienting, heartbreaking, and results in absolute confusion for the betrayed partner. You worry that nothing in your life was real, and you fear that you will never be able to trust your spouse or yourself again. Well, welcome to the Rebuilding Trust Podcast with Carol the Coach. I'm Carol Jurgensen-Sheets, aka Carol the Coach, and what I can promise is that when you listen to my podcast, you'll begin to believe that there is hope. We will be hearing from experts all over the world who specialize in problematic sexual behavior, sex addiction, and infidelity. Together, we will be asking them the hard questions about how you both can rebuild safety, find strengths, grieve and mourn what you had, what you never had, and what you fear you will never find again. The truth is that rebuilding trust is possible, and I am going to show you the steps to working together to build a whole new marriage based on the honesty, authenticity, and transparency that your marriage deserves. Rebuilding Trust with Carol the Coach. I just want to tell you that I'm so grateful that you are doing this work. It's such a specialized niche. And for any of my listening audience that's listening to it and they're wondering, well, I don't think chemsex applies to me. I want to tell people that if you've had a spouse who may have explored with gay or bisexual men, it really is a possibility that they took it that next level and explored simultaneously with meth, with crack, with other substance abuses and other substance abuse. And, you know, this is an episode that I think should enlighten you as a listening audience to know what else is out there. And I appreciate Dallas Bragg and David Fawcett coming in today because you are the experts. Everybody doesn't know this, but I had some trouble getting this together on my platform, and I must have wrote 18 times that you are the leading experts in this field. And so what you're going to hear today on Rebuilding Trust is a lot of information about how did this come to be? How is it impacting gay and bisexual men and men that just have explored and they're heterosexual. And then you're going to be talking about that incredible workbook. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, David, I want to ask you first, how did your workbook, Lust, Men, and Meth, a study guide, come to be? And, you know, what gap were you trying to fill when you put this thing together?
Yeah, what a great question. You know, the original Lust, Men, and Meth, believe it or not, is 10 years old. So I've been looking at an upgrade. The thing is, the whole epidemic's kind of morphed a little bit. There's different drugs, and it's a broader audience than just gay men, obviously, as you just indicated. So I think there was a lot of updating to do. The HIV science had changed. But I've gotten so many emails over the years from men saying there was something specific about the language in that book that spoke to me, and it was my story. I didn't want to tinker with that. And so I had the idea. Dallas had written to me, said I was doing a study group, he was, and asked if he could use the book. And I appreciated him asking, first of all, but I said, what a great opportunity. Maybe that's the way maybe that's the next step. The way to update it, which I did in the beginning of the workbook, and then the really insightful questions that Dallas and Dallas and I developed from the back of it. So I'm really happy. It helps interpret. That's the gap I want to mention. It helps interpret like this kind of science, if you will, down to the human level. And that's what Dallas does every day as a coach. And I do some of the back work on as a therapist. So that was the gap.
So Dallas, you are a coach, a recovery coach?
Yes, Chemsex recovery coach specifically.
So that is your niche, and you have made it be your niche.
That's right. I made my own niche, but yeah, there was such a gap there. There isn't any other one like me that I know of, specifically in the U.S. I just saw a gap that needed to be filled, and I've kind of stepped up to do that.
Excellent. And so how did the two of you actually start working together? Was it his request? to use the book that started the whole thing?
Well, from my side of that, certainly I knew who Dallas was just because he's a formidable social media presence, and so I knew of his work. And then we'd had chatted before, we met before, and he reached out to me in that way. What appealed to me, though, Carol, was I'm more of a 12-step kind of traditional therapy background, obviously, and I found over the years, especially overseas, that has limitations, right? There's a broader lens. And Dallas had a slightly different viewpoint than I did. And it sort of broadened the whole thing. And I thought it would be really good for clients also to see that there's maybe no right one way, right? That there's choices and there's options and there's many ways to arrive, including starting out with the question, what do you want? What's going to serve you? So in short, it broadened the whole appeal of the book and the approach for me.
Mm-hmm. So
And
what is David
yeah,
when he says you have a social presence, a social media presence?
yeah. I have kind of unlocked, I guess, the algorithm on TikTok and Instagram and other platforms, because again, there wasn't really not many people talking about this specific subject to these specific men. But actually have lived experience. I was in chemsex addiction, and when I was first getting free from that, I felt very isolated and alone, and I Googled and searched and found Dr. Fawcett. So early in my recovery, I heard his voice and his podcast, and I found his book. And so that
Show
was,
us the book. Show us the
yeah.
book.
This is the original Lust, Men, and Meth.
Right. It's not the
Yeah.
purple copy. It's the
Right.
original.
And then we have
Exactly.
the study guide with the update with the very beautiful cover. Yeah, so I found the original book, and I just had followed him all this time. And then when I started doing this job as a coach and become pretty prolific on social media, I started my own podcast, and I asked Dr. Fawcett to come on the podcast. So we connected there, and just kind of kept talking a little bit. And then, like he said, I started a book study of this book for my clients, and I wanted to talk. I wanted his permission first, and I wanted him to look at the questions to make sure I was on the right track there.
Well, you're doing exactly what coaches do. You're being curious. You're
Mhm.
asking permission.
Mhm.
And that's why this book has been so powerful. Uh, David, from a clinical perspective, what would you say are the most, well, first of all, describe to our listening audience. They may not know what chemsex is.
Yeah.
Tell us what chemsex is.
Yeah, it's always important to set the baseline like that. Yeah, chemsex is simply the intentional combination of some mood altering substance, almost always an amphetamine or stimulant of some kind, and sex. And that can be porn, by the way, too. Increasingly, we're seeing people get really high on whatever substance and hang out by themselves with porn, right? So that's a phenomenon as well. But it's any of that intentional combining and the damage there with these high dopamine releasing stimulants like meth. They really quickly, the brain learns this is a shortcut, it feels good, and it's really a strong pull. That addiction develops faster than anything I've ever seen. So suddenly they can't have sex without it. They can't get high unless they're thinking about sex. The two become all intertwined, which really affects their recovery. So that's what chemsex is, this really devastating kind of combination of drugs and sex.
Yeah. And so, from your clinical perspective, what are the most psychological patterns that you see in men who do combine substances within that sexual context?
I think, painting with a very broad brush, I think there's a core issue of loneliness and disconnection from the community, from themselves in many cases. And I think there's that hunger to feel connected. And I think that's where the easiness, if you will, in air quotes, of apps like Grindr and Scruff and these sort of social media apps they're hookup apps basically, that really fills that need, they think. But I've had guys that have had thousands of hookups and they're the loneliest people in the world. So I think it's that hunger for connection, that we're really recognizing. And not only that, then take it a step further, the skills to do that. A lot of times people are inhibited or have really negative feelings about themselves or think they don't deserve it or have trauma history and don't trust, they can't be vulnerable. So there's other issues here that are at play. But that's really the core essence and the core message of the book. And really nobody had addressed that before with this population. And that's where it resonates.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And David, did you find that some of the psychological components fit you as you were using meth and participating in gay sex?
That's for you, Dallas, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Let's do that again. I'm gonna.
Okay.
Yeah, no wonder you look so. So, Dallas, did you find that was part of your life too? That loneliness or boredom,
Yeah.
that isolation?
hmm Yes, for me, my story, which is common, I came out later in life. So I had been in the closet all my life till in my mid-30s. And so when I got on the scene, I had this expectation that I had finally found the answer to my own kind of my loneliness was just a total disconnection from myself. And so I assumed that coming into the gay community would make me complete. And what I found was that it made me even more disconnected from self because I felt like I didn't belong. I was too old. I didn't dress right. There was there's so many things hitting me from the mainline gay culture that it felt like at that point I belonged to nowhere on the planet. And then I stumbled upon the Chemsex scene. And if you talk to men who use, there's a common phrase they use, and that is the first time I used, I said to myself, this is the feeling I've been searching for all my life. And that feeling is that release from the shame, release, the total connection, total inhibition, no more internalized homophobia. It's like this magic elixir that takes all of that weight off that you carry around just living, not even in the heteronormative culture, but in the queer culture as well. And you feel this freedom. And for me, that's what I got addicted to. Yes, there's a lot of hypersexuality involved in it. That was, of course, the things that I wanted. I wanted to express myself sexually, but still, there was so much shame around that. And even comments about, I got more comments about how feminine I acted in the gay community than I ever did as a closeted man. So there was just so much coming at me that this allowed me to, what I thought, be myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is what I got addicted to, is that freedom.
Mm-hmm.
But it
So
was attached.
is it like with any drug though, that once you've done it a couple of times, that liberation, that freedom,
Mhm,
you have to do
mhm.
more meth
Right,
to find it?
right. And you're always chasing, just like most drugs, you're always chasing that first experience. I want to have that again. And I never found it. Just never found it again.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But I just want to add on to that, Carol, that you're exactly right. With these high dopamine releasing drugs like stimulants, they
Right.
develop tolerance quicker than other drugs. So very quickly in the chemsex scene, you start seeing people escalating how they ingest the drug, the quantity they use, the types of drugs, the types of sex they're having. It all kind of develops. And that's a problem for people, again, trying to get back after they get sober, if they choose to get sober.
Right. And I can imagine that when you do choose to get sober, it's like relearning what you need to know that you don't even know what it is. So I say relearning, but you never had it to begin with. Then
Right.
you had something artificial that felt great for a long time. And then you're learning what true intimacy is. You're learning what true self-personal development is. I mean, it's got to be a learning curve for anybody who is into chemsex.
Yeah, and
Go ahead,
go
Dallas.
ahead. Go ahead, David. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, when you recreated the dialogue I had with myself when I was putting together a title for the first book, where the subtitle is going to be something like Reclaiming Healthy Sex and Intimacy. And I realized it's not reclaiming, none of us, and I'm in recovery myself from alcohol, not meth, but same thing. It's like none of us ever had it. We have to go back before the drug and learn that stuff that you were talking about. There's some foundational work to do that we need to do to catch up.
Yeah. Well, and I know when I read the last line of your description about what you want gay men to know, you said something about you're presenting this information in a way that shares the hope, the courage, the strength within anybody who's willing to go down this path, to work towards abstinence, to work on their own getting to know themselves. And I thought, this would make me want to buy the book. You both are just very expressive. And David, what you've done is you've done a great job of doing it with empathy and kindness and that no judgment thing that so many people tag on to addiction in general, whether it's sex addiction or whether it's drug addiction.
That Dallas, hit it, the word shame, right? It's all about that shame. And we know that shame doesn't heal shame. So to shame someone in therapy or group, that's one of my concerns about, I'm a 12-step person myself, but the focus on the day count. And we know with methamphetamine, people are going to relapse. Just everybody relapses multiple times on their way to abstinence. And the humiliation of going back to day zero, over and over. A lot of people just give up. And that's the opposite of what you hit it. We want people recover from this. So there's hope. There's things you can do, and you have agency for yourself in your own recovery in this process. And that's one of the messages we certainly want to underscore.
And yet I get that they can get healthier, but by far, crack and meth are dopamine producing drugs that can take you down quicker than any other and can kill you. I mean, so there is real agency and urgency in helping gay and bisexual men find the pathway out, right? Yeah.
That's going to take destigmatizing, in both within the outer community and within the queer community, as Dallas mentioned. There's a lot of stigma about chemsex users really laid on them from other people like alcoholics, who are just a lot of judgment about that particular behavior.
In Dallas?
I think one thing we have to remember about this is, yes, stimulant addiction is stimulant addiction, right? However, the nuance of chemsex among men who have sex with men is like David mentioned, the geosocial dating apps that we have, that we can see like Grindr. You can see in real time where gay men are within so many feet or miles from you, right? They have made it so simple to access meth and to access parties of meth where you can, anywhere around the world right now, almost anywhere, you can access a meth and a meth party in literally minutes due to these apps. And then there's Zoom. You can go on Zoom and use with other men in real time, 24/7. So there's a lot of nuances that set apart chemsex recovery from other substances that you have to have a specialized knowledge of to help these men as well.
And so you both have seen the progression of this since the 90s, when computers were developed and software was being developed too. One of the things that I know is when you just said that, I thought about my heterosexual couples, and it's the same thing for them. But that proclivity for as quick as we can, with as many as we can, that's not necessarily there, and it is in the chemsex world.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so next question. You have the book, and then you have the study guide, right? And they're two separate publications. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so you wrote the book and you wanted people to understand what was happening to them, and you wanted to educate, and you wanted to break denial. But then you realized there was a need for a study book too. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To really help interpret the material in a
Yeah.
meaningful way.
And does that mean that there are exercises and there are self-reflection tools in the workbook?
Yeah. So the structure of the book, it begins with that update I mentioned on the 10-year anniversary, the kind of how things have changed perspective-wise. Then the exercises follow. I think the beautiful thing about this book, a lot of people have the first book to work with, but you don't necessarily need the first book. We've taken each chapter from the first book and summarized it, including really key takeaway points. So someone can work entirely within the workbook and answer the questions. And then really Dallas helped create this layout of different kinds of questions for reflection, for journaling, even for group prompts. So in many different contexts, we can use the book, but it's a standalone book in terms of the content and material.
Mm-hmm. And Dallas, I'm curious, you have the AfterMeth podcast. I mean, you have really devoted your life from every direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're disseminating information on this podcast, as well as you helped co-write this workbook, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You came up with
Yes.
a lot of the material.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did you two do that? Did you do that face to face, or did you do that online, or did you do that through emails? How'd you do that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dallas.
Yeah, it was virtual. It was interesting because we remarked when we had our book launch, we did the book launch in London,
Mm.
and it was some of the first time that we've actually spent time together in person. And
It's
we were
true.
just laughing at what a gamble it was that we wrote a book together and didn't really know each other personally that well. But we just happened to get along really well too. But the book was written just through Zoom meetings, through Google Forms, back and forth, and yeah. So. Mhm.
And you never know, of course, I mean, when you're collaborating with somebody, what it's going to be like, right?
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. Dallas was always right on target, right on the deadline. Always showed up. So it was very easy. I know it could have been a lot more difficult, but I was so grateful. And he's
Mhm.
now a friend, colleague
Mhm.
and friend.
Well, and so you shared the same ethics and you shared the same passion.
Mhm.
And I found that sentence. It said, for a gay man who's listening right now and recognizes himself in the conversation, what's the first step that you would encourage him to take so that he can find the courage, community, and claiming of his own life? And I just love that that's the hope you bestow on these men. So I'm going to ask, if there's a gay man listening, what what's the first step you would encourage him to take um, in dealing with this epidemic for gay and bisexual men? Dallas?
Dallas?
Yeah. There's, so I get this question a lot. Men who are just swallowed, just drowning, desperate. What do I do first? Because it seems so overwhelming. And I always have the same answer, and that is go and tell somebody. Share your struggles with someone because this is a addiction that lives in the darkness. It happens at night. It's hiding in plain sight. It's in dark hotel rooms, and it's oftentimes a secret part of a high functioning gay or a low functioning person, but it's their secret personality.
Mm.
So the first step I say is find a family member, a friend, or go to a 12-step meeting or another recovery group and just tell somebody you need help. Just get it out there, out of your body, and say it in words. And there's something free There's freedom in that. And that is a first step. It's just sharing it with somebody. And of course, then we can go on. But that is what I would say. If you're listening and you don't know what anything else to do, is just go and share it with somebody that you can trust.
Okay. And then I have a question for David. What is the most appropriate 12-step meeting to go to that will address this issue the best?
I wish I could give you a simple answer. I'll give you a quick, brief one if I can. There is Crystal Meth Anonymous, CMA, which is a 12-step fellowship. A lot of people like it. A lot of people don't because it can be very triggering. A lot of the focus can be on some sexual discussion, which can be triggering. That a lot of people are just kind of switching, moving addictions around, not really getting to the core source. So it can be tricky. A lot of people go to AA and NA, of course. And I recommend, believe it or not, some of the sex addiction programs as an adjunct, like SLAA, SCLA, to really address the sexual piece. Because that a lot of times, and this is otherwise fine, treatment centers, as I wrote in the book, really miss the mark on this because they don't explore the sexual piece. They just say, well, let's get you sober and the sex will take care of itself. And it won't, right? And so we really need to address both sides of that equation. So maybe throw in one of the sex addiction meetings if you're going to do the 12-step route would be helpful.
Well, that's interesting. And Dallas, your thoughts?
Most appropriate 12-step meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that I would tell somebody to try different ones. It's a lot like churches, like you keep trying until you find the one where you feel like you belong. There's also Dharma recovery. There's smart recovery. There's refuge recovery. There's so many other options too that you can try, and there's so many options online. So I would say what's appropriate for you and your individual needs, because some men, like David said, some men they're still not through the stigma and the shame enough to go to sit in a CMA, Crystal Meth Anonymous, with other crystal meth users. They feel more comfortable in an AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Most of them have a problem with alcohol as well. So it is appropriate, but it just makes them, it eases them into admitting that they have a crystal meth problem. So I would just say it's hard to say what's more appropriate. I would just keep trying different meetings in different places until you find the one you like.
And I am surprised, Dr. Dallas, that you didn't say you have started a meeting. An online meeting with, 300 men.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Fawcett has a free online meeting, actually, that you can
There's a
attend.
Chemsex support group that I run myself on Tuesday evenings at the Sex and Relationship Healing site through Seeking Integrity. It's a free online support group for Chemsex as well. But
Wow.
Dallas does some amazing work, reaching global audiences.
And so again, how can they find that group, Dr. David?
Unfortunately, it's a complicated thing. There's a website, sexandrelationshiphealing.com. And under that, there's a resources tab, and there's just by day. It's Tuesday evenings at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. It's a Zoom meeting, but it's free. You drop in, you don't have to repeat, you don't have to commit. We get a lot of people who are curious, and that's exactly what I want, just to kind of give free, factual information and support.
Okay. And obviously with your resource, the study guide, I intimated that lots of different types of people can use it, whether it's a professional, whether it's a mental health specialist, whether it's the person who has the difficulty. So who is the workbook for?
Well, I kind of wrote it on a parallel track like the first one. I wanted to reach people who are having that lived experience, but I also tried to educate providers who really had no resources at all. And I think we're trying to walk that fine line, right? And make it accessible to everybody. That's still kind of my hope, is that it will appeal. And by the way, partners, families, I mean, we're trying to demystify this. Chemsex, as Dallas so profoundly said, it's in the dark, right? It lives in secrecy. And so to really drag this into the light and really examine it and it's not insurmountable. It's not uh, doomsday. It can be, of course, right? It can go off the rails, but there's a lot of resources out there, and that's, I think, the message that we want to sell.
Well, you said doomsday, and I actually have a doomsday story about chemsex.
Mm.
Um, a very, very, very good friend of mine who was a budding businessman and entrepreneur and was gay, got involved in chemsex, and
Mm.
it took him down quickly. And he lost a very substantial group of gay and bisexual men in his life because they couldn't watch it.
Mhm.
And they saw him doing things they never thought he would because it takes away your integrity. Not only does it take you down physically, emotionally, but you also do things you would never have done. And that's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you the story. And so I was actually being interviewed about the subway guy who had been arrested for child exploitation. I don't know if you remember him, but he lost like 300 pounds on uh, eating
Yeah,
one
yeah.
subway a day.
Gerald or whatever, he was the
Jared Bowler.
spokesperson. Gerald, right, right, right.
Yes.
I remember that.
And he also sold VHSs. He had a porn library at IU, Indiana University. So he'd had these problems for a long time. And anyway, when he got arrested, I was the spokesperson. And even though, of course, I wasn't seeing him, I got to talk about exploitation and sex addiction and the differences. Fast forward, I was going to my 7th newscast in the morning, and it was 4 in the morning. I power walk before I did these um, shows. And something said to me, don't go past those bushes. There's something out there.
Mm.
And I said, Oprah, come on now. I do this walk every day. It's a lake. There's no cars on this busy street. I'm going to be fine. And I disregarded the don't go intuition, which shame on me, although it wouldn't have been a bad thing. Later that day, when I was in my boat with friends, they found a dead body in the lake right at the corner where I had had
Mm.
that intuition.
Mm.
And initially, my husband said, it's a woman and they're pulling her up right now. Get down there and see what's going on. But it turned out it was this entrepreneur, his friend, and they had been at a chemsex party
Mm.
and he OD'd.
Mm.
And they drove him from downtown Indianapolis 9 miles and dumped him in our lake.
Wow.
God.
That's what I mean about it can change your integrity.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
man would never have done that.
Mhm.
And I'm sure his friends wouldn't have either.
Mhm.
Now, fast forward, that was in July. Fast forward to October. And we have a very handsome African American gay man who's married to his wife, which is another man. And I said to him, oh my gosh, I know who killed that young man because
Mhm.
my gay friend who owned a restaurant, when I was looking for a caterer for my 65th birthday, he said, don't use, I'll call him Sam. Don't use Sam. He's the one that dumped that body into your lake.
Oh my gosh.
So I said that to this hunky African American, gorgeous, sweet man. And he said, oh, yeah, we know who did it, that caterer. And I
Wow.
said, what are you doing about it? In my naivete. And he said, it is against law to dump a dead body. But in the scheme of things, the man was dead. He died of chemsex, and we just chose not to prosecute. Now, I get that from a law enforcement position. My heart broke for his family, this young man's family, and also for the participants because they're haunted by what happened. And nobody needs to die, and nobody should die that way, and nobody should be dumped, and nobody should be ignored.
Mm.
And so it was my own personal story with chemsex.
Mm.
And of course, I might not have known it was chemsex, but in the gay community, it spreads like wildfire fire. So my friend who had chosen to not be a part of that quickly told me the story behind it. Do you deal much with death? Since you're in this world, it's kind of like if you work with AIDS in the 80s, 90s, you dealt with death. Do you deal with death, both of you? And I'll ask Dallas first.
I have not yet dealt
Okay.
with death.
Mhm.
Not physical death. No, I haven't.
Okay. Wow. I am so pleased. How about you, David?
Yeah, I have. I think I may deal with the more acute end of the spectrum in terms of people I see or people that, come
Yeah.
to treatment or kind of more urgent cases. So
Mhm.
thank goodness I've never had a direct suicide or any kind of death on my active caseload. But I've worked in inpatient units where we'd hear, somebody goes out and they die. Unfortunately, I live in a very gay little town here down in Fort Lauderdale area. And every weekend we hear about some gay man who's overdosed and died. I mean, it's just become commonplace to the point where there's a sort of this welling of grief that's growing in the community with all the loss, and nobody's talking about it. So again, it's one of those shame things, kind of keeping this a little bit under wraps. I think we really need to talk about what's going on here because everybody, you talk to any gay man, he knows somebody who's been taken down by chemsex, often with bad consequences. So yeah.
So if you're just tuning in, I am talking with Dr. David Fawcett, PhD, social worker, LCSW, who has specialized in chemsex and sexualized drug use within the LGBTQ community. And he's made it pretty much his mission to educate the public because it is a dark and quiet epidemic. And you actually you produced two documentaries. Is that correct?
Yes, one is out. It's been out. It's on available on Amazon. The other is still in final production. So it's not available yet. But yeah, we've done two about this topic, really trying to explain it and humanize it for people.
Oh, I
The
love
first
that.
it's called Crystal City is the first one, but about eight gay men in New York City kind of finding their way in recovery, trying
Mhm.
to. So it humanizes it. Because I think again, we have such stereotypes about who is doing this until we
Mhm.
know somebody, and then oh my God, it's my brother, it's my uncle, it's my son. So it's right there. And I think that film kind of tries to humanize it in that way.
Mhm. And then you, Dr. Dallas, um, you are a doctorate. You have your uh, ED degree,
Mhm.
and you're the founder of Recovery Alchemy. And that is a coaching practice specializing in chemsex recovery. And you too have made it your mission to get this information out. You did the study book with Dr. David, and uh, you're currently pursuing other things too. Tell us about what
Mhm.
you're pursuing.
I'm pursuing my sexologist certificate, slash sex coach from the Sexual Health Alliance, and it's a dual certification. I'll be a sexuality educator through ASECT. It's a missing link really in my coaching program because what we're doing basically is the ideal candidate would be somebody who is high achieving, high functioning, and can't really go to treatment.
Mhm.
That's one type, and then the other is coming out of treatment, and so we bridge the gap. So what I do is I help these men stop using long enough to get their mind clear, the brain healed, get them into therapy. And if I can add some deep kind of sexual reintegration and healing into that, then they're better prepared to go into therapy, because there's certain parts of the sexual reintegration is really one of the biggest hurdles coming in when you can stop the substance and then you're left with oftentimes ED, You're left with no sex drive or a fear of sober sex and a trauma, some sexual trauma from what you experienced in chemsex. So that's really one of the biggest hurdles and things that you have to process coming into in chemsex recovery. And so I'm hoping to help a little more deeper with these certifications.
And, for our listening audience, since Dr. Dallas is a coach, he can work anywhere in the world. He's not tied into state lines. And, I'm a coach and I'm a mental health therapist. And it's just a beautiful thing to have that kind of presence anywhere in the world where it's needed. So, gentlemen, I asked you before what the first step you would tell somebody who recognizes themselves in this conversation. What's the last thing you might add as we begin to wrap up this conversation? And I'll start with you, Dr. David.
I'm thinking back both with individual clients and in an inpatient setting, and everybody comes in when they're decided they need to do something. They want to know why. That's the question. And I think that's a really interesting question. Why am I this way? Why? But that's not really the first thing they need to worry about. I think let's switch the why to the how. How can I stay sober? What tools do I get to buy time, basically, to get to the why? But the why is really second and third step. I think that's where people always want to go first off. And I think it's really, let's build some skills first. So that's what I just emphasized in that conversation.
So the how is going to save their life. And then when they really get sober and they're really in a place to discover who they are, they'll get to the why to the best of their ability.
Exactly.
Yeah. Love that. How about you, Dr. Dallas?
Yeah, I'll just build on that because once you get to the why, I think that really does create the desire to get past a 90-day mark, a 6-month mark, a long-term sustainability. Because if your why is logic based in the head, like I'm supposed to quit meth, or I'm going to lose my job, or some of these reasons, they're not sustainable enough to take you long term. But when you drop down into the heart and your why is based from a heart space of this is not who I am anymore. Like I'm creating a new identity and a new life, and I am somebody who does not use. When you drop into that why, that creates that desire that pushes through those milestones because we see it a lot. You get to 90 days, all the emergencies are over, all the dopamine of your milestones have run out, and then you're just like, now what? And what creates the momentum past that oftentimes is a really strong, heartfelt why.
I heard that word twice now.
Yeah.
That heartfelt
Mm-hmm.
experience. Okay, so if you want to find out more about Dr. Dallas Bragg, Bragg, you can go to his website, www.drdallasbragg.com. And if you want to find out more about Dr. David Fawcett, he said that his website's a little bit more difficult to remember. It is www.sexandrelationshiphealing.com. I love that.
That's the Seek Integrity site. My own, if people want to reach me for any other thing, it'd be david-fawcett.com.
Okay, david-fawcett.com.
Yeah, the first website is for the Tuesday night support group. Either one gets to me.
Okay. Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much for coming on, talking about a conversation that many people don't know about. And, when we know better, we do better. And I hope I didn't traumatize you with my story.
You did not.
I'm good.
Okay. Okay. Thanks so much and continued success. The world needs you, and you're both incredible men. Thank you so much.